Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the humanities orientation part. All right, so I hope you already have your resources with you so that you can follow through this particular lesson. Okay, so I'd like to wish you welcome back again to 2021. Specifically, you all are graduating classes, so let's keep the energy and the spirit up, okay, so that we can do better for our national exams. Now, I'd like to explain a little bit, all right, what is this humanities orientation program is going to be like. Okay, so first I'd like to explain to you the objective of this particular lesson. It is basically to apply thinking tools as well as graphic organizers in making notes as well as revision for social studies, because we all know that social studies is a complicated subject for some of you because of all the different content that we actually have to understand. All right. So hopefully through this very short tip, as well as you doing the graphic organizers, experiencing it, you'll be able to see that actually it is very useful and it's very relevant. Okay. Moving on, it is also to understand how to find key ideas from massive content. All right, if you look at the social studies textbook, we all understand it is very, very thick. Okay, but is all the information from the textbook very important? So these are the things that hopefully in this session we will uncover together. All right, and lastly, of course, when you go out from this 1 hour session, I want you to sort of remember again how to unpack the SRQ question 6. Okay, it is one of the most interesting as well as challenging question, perhaps, because it requires you to apply the content knowledge and you are supposed to do it in your own words. So some of the students that I've taught, you do express worry, you do express concern about this question. So hopefully we can sort of unpack this question together. So the success criteria for this particular session would be, all right, you are able to apply the thinking tools, okay, when you make your notes or when you actually revise for social studies. Now, making notes is something that's very personal. So that is why in the beginning of January, you should already start thinking how you're going to process your Sec 3 stuff as well as your Sec 4 stuff. I think this is a good opportunity to sort of figure out how you're going to process all this information, not only in the humanities subject, but across the different subjects. Hopefully, at the end of this session, you're able to understand how to find the key ideas, right, after reading the content. And of course, you are able to remember, all right, what is required when answering SRQ question 6. Okay, it is interesting, challenging, but at the same time, it is a doable question, all right, to do. So let's recap. I think for some of you, this is not new, definitely. Some of you have done your concept maps. I know some of the students, they don't like concept map because they feel that concept map is actually very confusing. All right. But concept map is actually very good visual representation of information. Correct. There are different forms of concept maps. You know that you have charts, you have graphic organizer, you have tables, flow charts. Actually, if you just Google it, you can find many, many examples. Okay, but concept maps are especially useful when you want to learn visually, and that few weeks of revision before your O level or N level, it is very important that sometimes you're not overwhelmed by so much information. So visual representation sometimes do work. So you can look at page 1 of your set of worksheets. Okay, we are going to talk about globalization. It is a topic for the 4E and 4N. It is a topic that we have not done. We will be doing it sometime in this term. Okay, so sometimes social studies topics are really very much related to what you understand or what we actually call our prior knowledge, right? It's not that you guys do not know the content, you do know. And social studies has this wonderful aspect and wonderful element is use your prior knowledge to understand the topic better. Okay, so in your own words, in 10 minutes, I want you guys to fill this up, whether it is simple keywords, sentences, or even visual representation. I want you to actually sort of write it out. Okay, I'm going to give you 10 minutes. Okay, your teacher will count 10 minutes. Okay, we'll clock in at 10 minutes. I want you to interpret in your own words. What do you understand by globalization? How do you think this globalization take place? All right, and give me the impact. You can list as many impact. What are the positive impact of globalization? What is the negative impact of globalization? I do not want you to cheat and look at your handphone and Google it. I want it to come from your understanding. Okay, so that we can add value to what you already know. All right, so for 10 minutes, okay, you are going to work on this particular concept map, and after 10 minutes, okay, your subject teachers will actually walk through and sort of get some of you to share your answers. Okay, so teachers, please pause this video and time yourself for 10 minutes. Your 10 minutes starts now. All right, so I hope you had a very good discussion about what is globalization, what is the positive and negative impact. And you know, a lot of you actually already have the information. So this particular topic is actually easy breezy, okay? But now let's go back and let's look at what is the required content of this topic. Okay, so at the end of this particular chapter, what you need to know is this thing called driving forces. All right, this particular worksheet is actually with you. You can turn over, you will find this page. So what are driving forces of globalization? It is actually factors that allow globalization to take place. All right. Some of you perhaps already identified this in your own mind map just now. Okay. So for example, there are three different driving forces of globalization. One of it is development in transport. So you can see the picture there, all different kinds of transports, as well as connecting seaports. It could be even airports. Okay, anything to do with transport. And then the B part is actually the growth of MNCs. So what are MNCs? Multinational companies. I think the picture there, okay, sums up. They are actually big companies, all right, that actually have smaller headquarters everywhere in the world. Okay, so this is what I meant by visual representation. Okay, sometimes you just need that one picture and you would already understand. And see, advancement in technology, the very fact that, you know, we are able to zoom into different countries, we're able to communicate, all these things is because of the advancement in technology. So all these three factors allow globalization to take place. Okay, so when you actually fill this graphic organizer, okay, sometimes when you do your own notes, what you need to follow is definitely, you cannot be writing so many things, okay? Because one of the things that you will need when it comes nearer to the exams, or you know, the major national exams, what you actually need is just the keywords, the examples, and you have to summarize it in your own points. I think that is very important. A lot of students are still memorizing content. Okay, now social studies is not a subject that you need or you should be memorizing content. It should come naturally to you. So it is very important to summarize what you have understood from that massive content. And I think it works when you do your revision regularly. So for example, development in transport. Give a definition. A definition is always very important. Give some examples that make sense to you. Okay, you don't have to copy examples from what maybe your teacher give or what your friends give. Make sense of the examples that is relevant to you. All right, and you summarize. I think that is very important. Okay, so there is a example there. All right, you know, improvement in transport based on speed and size, more efficient infrastructures. You can see that, you know, I didn't string it like a sentence. It's all keywords. Okay, and there's examples there. Are examples that is very specific very good? Of course, you know, if you can give specific examples, definitely, I think in the national exams, this will sort of differentiate or make your answers definitely different and definitely better. But if you cannot think of very specific examples, think of general examples that will help you at least to come up with the link later on. All right. Now, you have to do for the other two sections, okay, growth of MNCs and advancement in technology. Okay, now for this part, you can Google your answers. And actually, if you look at the first page of your notes, there is a QR code there. All right, and the QR code actually will link you back to some sort of content in the event that, you know, you don't have your textbook with you or any of the other notes or whatever. All right, there is a QR code and you can actually scan it and you can take a look at the content. Okay, and make sense of the content, summarize the content. Okay, so for this section, you have another 10 minutes. Okay, so subject teachers, please make sure that they get access to the content via the QR code and then give them 10 minutes to just sort of interact and understand the content. Okay, so 10 minutes starts now. Now, moving on, okay, if you have already understood the different driving forces, okay, the next step is now to make sense of all this content. Okay, so now you understand the definition, you have examples. So now you need to answer the question. Okay, how would all these factors actually lead to globalization? Okay, now again, what is the meaning of lead to globalization? This is the keyword of the question. Lead means it is about being interconnected and interdependent. These are two keywords that you must remember for globalization: interconnected, interdependent of each other. So now you understood that, okay, there are now better transport. There are better connection between countries. So how does this lead to globalization? Okay, so I'm going to give you one example here. Development in transportation facilitate the movement of goods and people, right? Because now you have better transport. And all this is because traveling all over the world is much easier with this modern transportation that we have. And because of this, the goods travel faster. There is a specific route that they can actually follow. And in terms of time factor, okay, it definitely saves time. So all this actually leads to interconnection of activities as well as ideas. Country A gets connected with country B because there is a development in transport, there is ease of transport, okay, be it it is the shipping, transportation, or it could be the air transportation. Okay, so these are the key ideas that you need to pick up. All right, so again, take your time to do part B. The question would be, how does MNC impact the world? How can it lead to countries to be interconnected and interdependent? If you're stuck in your small groups, you can discuss, okay? And if you look at point C, how does technology impact the world? All right, why is it so important? How can it lead to countries to be interconnected and interdependent? All right, how does the internet, for example, shrink the world? So these are things that we would expect you to write. Okay, again, when you write this, your notes, okay, in your graphic organizer, so-called, you need to ensure that it is short, it is simple, and it is something that you are able to elaborate. All right, and you have to make the link. Okay, so take your time to do that. For those of you who are still a bit lost, okay, these are the two QR codes. One, the green color QR code is actually the QR code to the site, whereas the blue QR code is actually the QR code for the content. Okay. Now, moving on, we're going to test a bit of your understanding. All right, we are going to unpack one SRQ question 6 right now. Okay, this is a 7 marks question. This is a very generic SRQ question. Now, recap. Okay, this is a recap. All right, every time you would have an extract. Okay, and once you have this particular extract or this particular passage, right, read through. Okay, take your time to read through. And if you look very carefully, if you had remember the discussion that we had about transportation, this extract one focuses on Singapore, all right? And it says that Singapore is one of the world's leading transportation hub. Changi Airport serves so many airlines. Okay, it allows almost millions, almost 60 million passengers to pass through the door. So it tells you that the very fact that Singapore is so connected, okay, there are benefits to it. All right, so let's take a look at the question. Extract 1 shows the connectivity of Singapore to the rest of the world. Okay, in your opinion, how does Singapore's connectivity bring positive economic impact? All right, there are a few keywords that we will unpack together, but just to indicate here, all right, for the N level, you would actually need to just give one particular impact, okay, whereas in the O level, you need to possibly give 2 possible positive impact, okay, and this is the LOMS. This is how in O level and N level, the national exam papers are being marked. You look at level 3, straight away at level 3. You will get 6 marks for explaining 1 strategy. Okay, you would get 7 marks for explaining 2 strategies or 2 impact or 2 reasons. Okay, now an explanation is actually how Singapore's connectivity brings about impact to Singapore's economy. Nothing else, nothing about culture, nothing about social benefits. The impact must be about economic benefit. Okay, whereas for N level, explain only 1 strategy well, and you would already get the 6 to 7 marks. Okay, so let's unpack keywords together. Please get ready your different color pens. You would need 3 different colors. It can be black, blue, red, any other colors or highlighters. Okay, it is very important to annotate, because when you annotate the questions, you would understand it deeper and not misinterpret, because you must remember in the national exam, there's anxiety, there's panic, there's nervousness. So it's always good to annotate. Take your time. When you annotate, you are actually trying to calm your mind and zoom into the important aspect of the question. All right. So first thing that you need to underline or highlight or annotate will be connectivity of Singapore, positive, as well as economic impact. All right. I want you to highlight or underline in 3 different colors, and let's unpack this together. So first things first, what are examples associated with keywords? So the connectivity of Singapore, what does it mean? It means that we are able to link to other parts of the world. Now, this is not enough, with ease. Okay, with ease. That means it's easy. And Singapore is such that, because we are small, we are nimble, but at the same time, we are able to connect to everywhere in the world. Okay, so that is one of our key strengths, right? Okay, now the other keyword that we are unpacking right now is positive. All right, so what does it mean by positive? How does it add value? How does it lead to good impact? How is it that Singapore being so connected to the rest of the world, what value does it bring us? All right, and specifically for this particular question, we are only looking at economic impact. So you must be very clear. And hence, that is why when you're looking at the questions, you need to annotate properly. So what are possible positive economic impact? Okay, and first, let's talk about what is economic impact. It refers to the level of economic activity. And if you were to actually go deeper about economic impact, it is about in terms of jobs, in terms of income, in terms of wealth, in terms of how it can affect the individual, how it can affect, for example, the country, the government. So you can look at it in terms of that aspect as well. Okay? I'll give you a bit of time. Look at this. Okay, I hope you're annotating. Subject teachers, please make sure that all students are doing their annotation and unpacking the question. Okay, and in your worksheet, there is actually this frame. All right, and everyone, you should already be very familiar with this what, how, and why. And the reason is because we have already introduced this to you in Sec 3. And why is this what, how, why? Okay, why are we not using PEEL, for example, or PEEL? Okay, it's actually the same method. All right, but what would be easier is actually you remember the writing process. I think that is very important. Okay, so examples of connectivity, you must give some examples of connectivity because that is required in the key aspect of the question. Okay, how? What possible economic impact to Singapore as a result of connectivity, and why? So what? What is the impact towards us? The result. Okay, so this is the part where you will be able to differentiate between the good answers and as well as the mediocre answers. All right, what is the result of this positive impact? What is the long-term or short-term impact? We can also unpack it that way. So let's do together. All right, so examples of connectivity: good air, sea transport, okay, that connects Singapore to the world. Now, what possible positive impact as a result of this connectivity? Because we are so connected, we are able to attract a lot of MNCs. Remember MNCs? That was a concept that we went through in the beginning of this lesson. All right, MNCs are big companies and they are willing to set up business and invest in our country. Why? Because we're so connected. As a business person, as a businessman, or as a business entity, those big business, they would want somewhere to actually set up a headquarters, a HQ that is able to actually ensure that their business is run with ease. That when they send their products or their items to this particular port, it is able to be shipped definitely faster, or there's no bottleneck. It makes everything very simple. So Singapore is always one of the top countries that is able to accommodate to all the needs of these MNCs. All right, an example will also be Universal Studio, which is actually an MNC, right, decided to set up Resort World Sentosa, okay, because they know that specifically it because Singapore is so connected, tourists will actually come into Singapore. It makes it very easy for tourists to come to Singapore, and because of our transport system, right, our air routes, it makes tourists more. It makes tourists, enjoyable. It makes them consider Singapore, all right, as part of their destination when they want to, for example, travel. Okay, because it's so easy to come to Singapore. All right, the why part. Now, when we have investments, when we have people coming in to set up business, the impact is a lot. All right, the result of this positive impact, what is it? Okay, because there's a lot of tourists coming in, it will also boost up other economic sectors. Now, you must remember that tourists don't just come to Universal Studio. They need hotels, they need to go and eat, they will shop. So it does help in the other sectors of the economic sector specifically, all right? The hospitality, the restaurants, and all these sectors will need humans, will need people to actually work for them. So it also inevitably will boost up employment opportunities. Okay, so this is a very simple example just to sort of show you the flow of writing. Now, what is next? Okay, next up is you need to give me one more example. All right, one more example of how Singapore's connectivity leads to economic impact and what is the result of this positive economic impact. Okay, so you can do this slowly. All right, take your time. All right, unpack the question again if you have forgotten how to unpack the question, and use the additional time to finish your graphic organizers in the event that, for example, you missed out any of this. Okay, your social studies teacher will be collecting this next week. Okay, it is actually a topic that we are going to do this term. All right, so take your time. You can already start unpacking and doing the content aspect. Okay, so if you missed out any part of this video, it is already uploaded on the site. Okay, later on, maybe subject teachers or form teachers, you can actually show them the link to the site via the QR code. Okay, so I hope that this particular short session of this humanities orientation sort of shows you how we use, visual organizers or thinking tools to help you sort of frame your mind and understand this massive content, and how, for example, we can use this content to unpack our SRQ questions. Okay, so I hope it's a meaningful session. So if you have any more time left, do finish it up. Okay, so that you can pass this particular set of worksheets to your social studies teacher next week. All right, so thank you so much, graduating classes, and I'll see you soon. Okay, bye-bye.